Going to begin the broadcast in a few. To make sure we're on. Yes, we are. So let's get this thing started, shall we? I think we shall. Hello and welcome to the show. It is Friday morning, the 18th of December, and I am on Twitch as well. Let me just go ahead and check my Twitch channel just in case, because oddly enough, I know it sounds kind of weird. Facebook is kind of shutting me down a lot, and so that's why I'm moving off of Facebook. But we just double check on my Twitch channel here real quick, and yep, I'm on my Twitch channel. Yeehaw! So you can check me out on Twitch at Rob Carson Show. You can also check me out, right here on Facebook as well. So welcome to the show. Lots of stuff to get to in the next, however many minutes I'm going to be here. Cheers. This was a little flavored coconut water this morning. I had my coffee already. So survey taken earlier this week. 1,000 respondents. 52% want the president to continue to drain the swamp in Washington. Okay. So people want big government socialism to go bye-bye. They want to drain the swamp. I think a lot of people are feeling that way. I think more and more people are beginning to realize that the election has been stolen. It's funny because I have people in my life, including my son, who say it's nonsense. And then when you confront them with evidence, like the Immaculate Deception, the Navarro report, which just came out, the Allied Security, their analysis of the election, and electronic ballots, and all the insane things that happened, like in Michigan with 68% error rate with regard to electronic ballots, which means that 68% of the votes cast had to be sent off for adjudication, which means they were switched to Joe Biden. That happened in Michigan, Central Lake Township in Michigan. 1,222 ballots reversed out of 1,491 ballots cast, resulting in an 81% rejection rate. You've also got requesting video of trucks being brought in with ballots by the thousands and possibly even millions. You've got hundreds and hundreds of people who have testified under oath and under the possibility of prison. And it all bubbles down to this, and that is, we aren't stupid. Okay, we are not stupid. The evidence is overwhelming. The Democrats are attempting to steal the election. And, there are a lot of people who will say, the climate change is settled science. Really? Are you sure it's settled science? Because it was global warming a little while ago. So if you changed it from global warming to climate change, and then back in the 70s, it was global cooling. So it wasn't cooling. And then we found out it wasn't really warming, so they decided it was everything. You see what I mean? It's like it's both. It's both. Yeah, anything that happens, warmer. If it warms or cools at all, I mean, it's climate change, because climate change. Climate change. Yeah. Well, this is interesting. Clark County, Nevada Dominion machines also kicked out 70% of ballots. So that's happening not only in Michigan, but also in Nevada, and then also I might mention in Georgia, the state of Georgia, they're going to do signature matching now. The president of the United States tweeted the other day that the governor and the attorney general of the state of Georgia were going to go to jail. I don't think he said it just to say it. Hi, Nick. Hi, Shelby. How are you guys? Good to see you this morning. Good to see you this morning. And I've got some very troubling news about the Supreme Court and why they didn't take the Texas case. Okay. And if this is the case, and I got to tell you, I am pissed off at John Roberts, the Supreme Court justice. He is a gigantic disappointment, and he's a tool, and he's a political tool. There were reports coming out, a variety of things that I'm not going to say right now, but you just say that he's got some connections, and it's important that he's being seen in a certain light by certain individuals. But we'll get into what happened when the Supreme Court got together out of chambers with regard to John Roberts. I want to start with, this is No, let's start with something stupid. We'll start with Stephen Colbert in a vomitous interview with Joe and Jill Biden. And Jill Biden she wrote a piece for the LA Times, I guess, yesterday saying, call me Dr. Biden. Here's the thing. Jill Biden is not a terribly bright person. And I had a chance to read a good share of her thesis for education. And she's insisting on being called doctor. And it was sophomoric. And I'm a good writer. I'm just going to say I'm a good writer. Have I written any books? No, I haven't written any books. But I've written comedy, nationally syndicated comedy columns, etc. for 30 years. And I'm a very good writer. And I would honestly, I would put my writing up against most, certainly way above average. But hers was just sloppy. It was like a sophomore term paper that they wrote the night before it had to be turned in. Honestly, if it is a doctoral thesis that is the culmination of the end of years of study, etc., yeah, okay, sure. But I don't think she's, and listen, if you're going to put yourself out there as a public figure and say, I demand to be called doctor, then you are opening yourself to criticism. Okay. We have right now a beautiful first lady who is brilliant and intelligent. She escaped communism. She speaks 5 languages. She's graceful and articulate. And she has been savaged every step of the way. There's never been a positive thing. There's never been a cover of Vanity Fair or Vogue. Nothing like that. Not a thing about Ivanka Trump. about the First Lady of the United States, Melania. And even to the point where tearing her down when she redid the Rose Garden, even though, they said she laid waste to it. Well, no, it hasn't budded yet. They just put the stuff in and it's got a bloom and everything, you see. And then, of course, making fun of her Christmas decorations, which, were not done by her personally. She doesn't do it. I mean, it's literally hundreds of people and also a lot of people around the country sending things to be a part of this glorious display. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful, but they savaged her about it. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, you know what, Jill Biden, if you're going to demand that people call you doctor, that's what I think. I think it's one of those things where you closely guard something that was really, I don't know. It's like John Kerry's war medals, all right? He got some war medals apparently for his service in Vietnam, although he didn't see any active combat, and the Swift boat veterans would say that. But by God, he carried those medals around, and then he pretended to throw them over the White House fence back in the 1960s before I was born. But anyway, threw them over the White House fence. Turns out they weren't his medals. He kept the medals. So it's like getting a first place trophy that you didn't earn. There's a funny analogy from Friends. Joey Tribbiani got there was somebody he knew. A fellow actor got an award for a soap opera, Soapy or whatever, and she didn't think it was that big a deal. So he claimed it as his own. And he fiercely defended this as his own, even though it was not his own. I'm not saying that her degree is not her own, but I think she says she worked very hard for it. Well, we all work very hard for a lot of things, Jill. And I got to tell you, as far as your life in general, I'd say it's been pretty cushy. I think it's been pretty cushy. You were with your husband and you started banging Joe while you were involved with your husband, and Joe was his wife, and you guys cheated on each other, and then you got together and you stayed together, and you've been kind of living in largesse and mansions. Even though Joe Biden only made $170,000 salary, was able to afford all sorts of mansion-y stuff. And listen, I made at least that. I made more than that in Washington, D.C. I never had a mansion. Never had a mansion. But anyway, here's a little bit of Stephen Colbert's vomitous interview, and you'd expect it to be vomitous with anybody. Listen, if I did an interview with Donald Trump, would I throw some softballs at him? Oh, hell yeah! I'm not a journalist either, and I know Stephen Colbert is not a journalist, but he is a tool, and he's an a-hole, and he says a lot of really nasty things. He said a lot of nasty things about the president and the first lady and others. And here is his interview. This is the interview was granted by Jill Biden, and it's like I said, it's vomitous. But here's a little bit of it, and then we'll move on to other stuff.
Tonight, President-elect Biden is defending his son Hunter amid an investigation into the younger Biden's taxes. The president-elect and Dr. Jill Biden sat down with CBS's Stephen Colbert for an exclusive interview.
We have great confidence in our son. I am not.
Now, your son has been through rehab 8 times. There was a laptop with him that has just been found about a year ago, turned over to the FBI, not revealed by the FBI, while the president was being impeached. It shows him having sex with a prostitute while smoking crack. He also impregnated a stripper in Washington, D.C. Again, in the VIP room at the club, he was smoking crack.
Concerned about any accusations been made against him. It's used to get to me.
8 times in rehab, smoking crap, impregnated a stripper, got $85,000 a month from a Ukrainian gas company. He had no idea what he was talking about with regard to, no expertise with regard to Ukraine. Joe Biden threatened the incoming president of the country, or the previous president of Ukraine, with $1 billion in loan guarantees going down the toilet unless he fired the prosecutor investigating the gas company that had hired Hunter Biden as a board member for $85,000 a month for doing nothing.
I think it's kind of foul play, but look, it is what it is, and he's a grown
He almost seems lucid there.
man. He is the smartest man I know.
Okay, smart guys usually don't impregnate hookers while smoking crack. In fact, smart people don't usually smoke crack.
I mean, in pure intellectual capacity, and
You must know a lot of stupid people. Yeah, I mean, if he's the smartest person you know, wow.
as long as he's good, we're good.
Well, he's not good, you see.
As a father, I understand that, and I admire
Does your son smoke crack?
that. But I mean, in terms of your job as president, can you reach across the aisle to people who will be using this as an attack on you when it is such?
Well, remember those people across the aisle. You, for the last year or so, you've been calling them Nazis and white supremacists and racists and all that. So I think really, honestly, what they say about your son in a legitimate investigation, by the way, there are 3 investigations going on, they pale by comparison to you calling us Nazis, white supremacists, and racists.
A personal attack because it's about family.
But if it benefits the country, yes, I really mean it.
Oh, boy.
Well, you can see more of the interview with
Well,
President-elect
I
Biden.
certainly won't, actually. I have no intention of watching it whatsoever. And I'm glad I didn't eat anything this morning before I watched that, because if I would have watched a little more, I think I would have probably vomited. Yeah, probably. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Debbie. Glad to have you guys on the show this morning, or at least watching the show this morning. I greatly appreciate it. Again, we are on Twitch and also on Facebook this morning. So far, Facebook has not interrupted it. Maybe they just don't know I'm on right now. I don't know. Hard to say. Maria Bartiromo yesterday on Fox Business alluded to something with regard to a source. Now, generally, it's funny because with the New York Times, you can cite unnamed sources, and that's good enough to impeach the president. But if Fox News cites an unnamed source, and there are a lot of people who are very plugged in, not only on Fox News, but other networks as well, then the New York Times would have a problem with it. But here's Maria Bartiromo, who is plugged in. That sounds weird, doesn't it? Anyway, talking about a source and what that source is saying about the election.
An intel source telling me that President Trump did, in fact, win the election.
And I say, duh.
He says that it is up to the Supreme Court to hear suits from other cases across the country to stop the clock. This follows the High Court's refusal to hear the lawsuit from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton.
And that's coming up with the what the Supreme Court did in just a second.
Challenging results in 4 swing states.
Okay. So, again, and this is something that nobody's been able to answer, including my son, who I love my son very dearly, but he's on the other side of the political perspective because he goes to college, you see. And when I say that, we're all sitting here on election night and we watched the what happened in the 5 swing states. We saw that the president was pulling out in front. We saw that, and everybody said, and this makes absolute sense, that they counted the mail-in ballots because, you see, the mail-in ballots had arrived and they had to be counted by election day, you see. So those came in because they've been there. And then as the day progressed, people who showed up in person, and without a doubt, they were Trump voters, because Trump voters are afraid of voter fraud and voter theft. And so they arrive on the day of. They're proud to show an ID. Even if they're not asked to show an ID, they show an ID. And we watched Trump galloping away with it. And we went to bed. And right before I went to bed, I was like, they stopped voting in wherever. And they stopped voting in wherever. And they stopped voting in Georgia because there was a water main break. But there was no water main break. And then in the middle of the night, hundreds of thousands of ballots poured in almost exclusively for Joe Biden. In the state of Wisconsin, at least 100,000 ballots the next day were predated to before the 3rd, so they would be counted, okay? So, again, we're not stupid. We aren't stupid. It was stolen. Hello, John. How are you? Good to have you joining me this morning. Appreciate it. Here is Dick Morris. I'm not a big fan of Dick Morris. He's kind of a freak. But anyway, he apparently has the president's ear. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. But here is Dick Morris talking about what the president has told him in the last 24 hours.
I spoke with the president for about half an hour last night. I'm sure that
I am glad you're not in front of a green screen, because you'd just be a floating head right now.
that is not,
Little inside information.
not true. That's totally erroneous. It's part of their disinformation campaign so that they can discredit any legitimate challenge to the election.
Yes.
But there is something I need to tell you about. I think on the show I mentioned that 2 years ago the president issued an executive order saying that because of the potential of foreign interference in the U.S. elections and the way that
And there was, and I'll get to that in a second.
advanced digital and internet capabilities are facilitating that, he set up a standby procedure where if the Director of National Intelligence finds within 45 days of an election, it's now 44, that there has been significant foreign intervention, or possibly intervention, he shall initiate an inquiry, an investigation to determine if it happened and who was responsible. And I believe that the president should invoke that order today.
Good.
And should order that investigation to start. The investigation has broad subpoena powers and other kind of powers connected with it, and the DNI has adequate staff to investigate that. And I think that more important than whether he won the election or not, the ultimate issue of whether China and Iran hacked our election.
Okay. So you'll recall in 2015, Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, and Hillary Clinton presided over, and Barack Obama and Joe Biden presided over the sale of a good share of our uranium stockpile here in the U.S. And they sold it to a company called Uranium One, which was a Russian backing out of Canada, but is a Russian-backed company. And Hillary Clinton suddenly got $150 million into her glorious foundation. $150 million from Russian oligarchs into her foundation. I believe, my friend Dan Bongino believes, and I have believed all along, by the way, that the entire Russian collusion story, the made-up story about Donald Trump and Russian collusion, was to distract from the original sin of Russian collusion with the Obama White House, Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, Joe Biden as the vice president. And they came up with a dossier. They paid for, Hillary Clinton's campaign paid for a dossier that was meant to distract. It was absurd. It was based on a complete lie. And the Democrat Party used it, and Hillary Clinton used it to get a FISA court to surveil the Trump campaign, then the Trump transition team, then the Trump presidency. So this all also comes down to, who do you suppose China, Russia, and Iran would like to see in the White House? I originally posited that it would be absurd for Russia to want to collude with Donald Trump to help him win the presidency. He's a hawk on defense. He is a hawk on trade. And he is an America First president. He made it his mantra. What was the first thing that Joe Biden said when he says he thought he won the election, and I don't believe he has? He said that they're going to get rid of the America First thing. They're going to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, which will damage us greatly as far as economically. And America First goes out the window. Who wants to hear that the most? Russia, Iran, and China. We also found out that China has infiltrated the highest echelons of academia, corporate boards, and even into the Congress with Eric Swalwell banging the snot out of a Chinese spy named Fang Fang or Fong Fong, whatever, and then getting actually an intern, getting an intern into his office, a Chinese spy in his office. He banged the snot out of her for like years, Pillow talk. I mentioned the other day that her idea of foreplay was going, is this thing on? Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, Eric, let's go. So there is that. Now, she's been recalled to China. In other words, President Xi has ordered out Chinese. Okay, anyway, I could go there all night. I could go there all day. It's like, you want 69? Eric's like, yeah, I want 69. She goes, Mushu pork? That's okay. It's an old joke. It's an old joke, whatever. Anyway, so that's all this culmination. And like I said, we've seen that. Now we also find out that Russia, not the government apparently, but Russia has hacked deeply into the United States beginning in March. Now, what happened in March? I believe Joe Biden became the official candidate of the Democrat Party in March. Here is this is the report. Let's start with actually Catherine Herridge talking about the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, saying that 3 countries have actually infiltrated the election this year, and it wasn't to help Donald Trump.
What did Ratcliffe say about election fraud and interference?
Well, DNI Ratcliffe leads the 17 intelligence agencies, and he has access to the most highly classified information that is held by the...
She is one of the only remaining journalists in the mainstream media, and it's only because she came from Fox.
U.S. government. And he told CBS News that there was foreign election interference by China, Iran, and Russia in November of this year. And
wow.
He is anticipating a public report on those findings in January.
Now, let me see. China, Russia, and Iran were all messing with our elections in November, which, if I'm not mistaken, the 3rd of November was election day. We also saw hundreds and hundreds of incidences of fraud around the country. We have video evidence. We have receipts. We have testimony. Okay? Democrat Party would benefit, and China and Iran and Russia would all benefit from having Joe Biden in the White House. Just saying. Hey, guys, want to real quick tell you that, and we're going to play with you in just one moment, a little bit more from Catherine Herridge with regard to a massive Russian hack that we've just discovered. Here is our winner of the Hassel Cattle Company freezer full of beef and a pit barrel cooker. What I'm doing is, if you subscribe to my channel on Rumble, I'm moving away from YouTube, rumble.com, Rob Carson Show, you could win. One winner is going to win a freezer full of Wagyu beef from Hassel Cattle Company. Oh my God, it's so good. And a pit barrel cooker. This is a prize package worth about $800, $900, something like that. Anyway, one lucky person's going to win. That is Felix. He won last month, so there you go. You don't have to be local. You don't have to be in the Kansas City area. No. So anyway, do that. Rumble.com, Rob Carson Show. I've got over 13,000 subscribers. Only been on about 2 months, so not too bad. It's growing. Here is Catherine Herridge with a report about just an exclusive Russian hack that has happened this year, which just happens to be an election year.
Officials say a massive cyber attack discovered a week ago and blamed on Russia was far more wide-reaching than previously thought. Reports say the security breach has struck at least 7 government agencies, and sources tell CBS News President Trump has been briefed on the attack. So far, though, he has made no public comments about it. Senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge has more.
Here she goes.
A sobering warning from senior cybersecurity officials. Hackers believed to be linked to Russian intelligence are now feared to be deep inside American infrastructure networks and across government agencies. U.S. officials call the hack highly complex and a grave risk. The hackers made their move.
I have no doubt that the tentacles of Russia, Iran, and China made it into our election, and Democrats worked with them. I know that sounds earth-shattering, but it's also common sense. Okay? Joe Biden's son got $10 million from a company that had close ties to the Chinese Communist Party, and Joe Biden, according to emails or texts, got 10% of it.
At least as early as March, and remained undetected until last week. They broke into SolarWinds, a Texas-based software
which has been tied into Dominion Software,
a company that serves government agencies and many Fortune 500 companies. But officials now say they managed to infect networks using other methods.
It's going to take a while for our forensic cyber sleuths to find out where this attack is, where the Russians have gotten their tentacles in.
Jack Thomas Tamarchio is a former principal deputy undersecretary.
I don't know. Hillary Clinton got $150 million from Russian oligarchs tied to the Russian government after selling 25% of our uranium reserves to a Russian company.
For home.
What do you think, kids?
Land intelligence.
What I'm hearing you say is that it will.
Donald Trump trashed the Iran nuclear deal. Barack Obama sent $150 billion to Iran and got the nuclear deal, sent cash money to Iran. So what do we got here? We got China, we got Iran, we got Russia, and the Democrat Party,
It'll be very difficult to fully understand the damage and then get the bad actors out of the system.
We don't have an easy fix here.
Okay.
And I would say that if you look at it as it's a hemorrhage, the hemorrhage is probably still happening.
CBS News has learned evidence of the hack was detected at the Department of Energy, which maintains the nation's nuclear weapons stockpile and operates the Los Alamos National Lab in New Mexico. In a statement, the department said, so far, there is no evidence the hack impacted nuclear weapons security. Some lawmakers are calling on the current administration to act now.
In this setting, not to have the White House.
Okay, and then when you put Mitt Romney on, then you lose me. But I think you see where I'm going. Okay, I've been right about a lot of stuff. In fact, everything, pretty much. And I know this sounds kind of arrogant and whatever, but you know, I said from the get-go that the COVID virus is bull crap. I'm going to get to that here very shortly. I have some just remarkable stuff about COVID with regard to the idiocy of the shutdown and how shutdown states it's worse, and how suddenly the virus got a whole lot worse after Election Day when Donald Trump didn't didn't capitulate, didn't say that he had lost. So the virus suddenly got very bad, even though we had three vaccines, and everybody needed to shut down even more, especially in the New York states. And Joe Biden has said that we need to wear masks for 100 days. And actually last night when he's talking to Stephen Colbert, he says we won't be back to normal until maybe Christmas next year. Now, what advantage does government have if we prolong the virus, the fear associated with the virus, the mask wearing, all of that stuff? I guess it's control, right? It is. It's control. It's not paranoid to look at a virus that came from China, that we've been lied to about its severity. We know that people under about 70 years old with no comorbidities will survive it, generally at a rate of 99.997% with men and 99.998% for women. We know that children and teenagers, people in their 20s and 30s, do not die from it. If it does, it happens occasionally. But honestly, young people die of flu too, by the way. We know that for the first time in our memory, in our lifetimes, worship services were shut down, restaurants were shut down, concerts were shut down, schools were shut down, restaurants were shut down, cities were shut down. You had to, people were told you could not leave your house. You could not have people from outside of your home. These are mandates that are going on right now in the country. You cannot have people outside of your house in your home. Now, think about this. Where were the seeds of the American Revolution started? In homes, taverns, restaurants, and churches. Yeah. This is Senator-elect Tuberville of Alabama. He, a pretty ballsy guy, and he says that he is going to be one of the senators, if not only the only senator, to contest the election when it goes to the Congress on January 6th. Here he is, and I'm sure he's getting all sorts of tamped down because he's a senator-elect, you see. And he's going to get a little what fur from Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell got so mad yesterday, his heart rate went over 3 beats per minute. Weird. Here is Senator-elect Tuberville. Finally, we have some senators going to Washington, D.C. with some cojones.
Folks, we got to grab a hold and hold on. We have no choice. Listen to me now. We have no choice but to win this election. They're going to try to steal it. They're going to try to buy it. They're going to do everything they can, lie, cheat, steal to win this election, like they did in the presidential election.
They might even work with China, Russia, and Iran.
It's impossible. It is impossible what happened. But we're going to get that all corrected. I'm going to tell you, don't give up on it.
Do not give up on this president.
Are you going to fight to make this election right?
Pardon?
Are you going to fight to make this election right?
We're going to fight hard.
What can y'all do on January 6th? Madison said y'all had tricks up your sleeve.
We're going to run you into the air.
Give me them tricks up the sleeve, baby. Come on.
Just wait for it. Well, you see what's coming. You've been reading about it in the House. The Democrats are not going to. And we're going to do it.
I'm sorry.
Ooh, I love it. I love the tricks up the sleeve. We heard that the president the other day said that a storm is coming. He also said you're going to have to wait a couple weeks to find out. You think he's just playing around? Do you think maybe this president might have a trick up his sleeve? I think he does. This is Representative Anthony Kern talking about the election.
Sacred honor to ensure, and I will put politics aside. If I never win an election again, America is important. I do not want to see Venezuela coming in.
Love it.
I do not want to see China having their tentacles in this nation.
And Russia and Iran.
Anymore. And Trump, every time I heard him on TV, it was like he was my friend. Why? Because here's the President of the United States sticking up for me, little old me in Arizona. And there are millions, 70-plus million people out there that feel the same way. And if the GOP thinks that this is just another political mountain that will go away in the next couple months, they are sadly mistaken.
Okay. Yeah, we're hearing this echoed. They are sadly mistaken if they think that we're just going to go, oh, shucks, we lost. They won, it's like cheating in baseball. Well, we'll get them next time. Oh, no, there's not going to be a next time. There's a this time, and we're getting this time. We are not going to allow this to happen. It's just not. The other day, I did a meme, and I said, China's army has 2 million people. Trump's army has 74 million people. Who do you suppose the Democrats are more concerned about? Hell, they're working with China. They're working with China. Come on, man. I mean, the reason guys, what has Donald Trump been saying since even while he was campaigning? Who the enemy is? China. He's been talking about China China hates this man. China, because Donald Trump is costing China a crap load of money. Donald Trump said, we're tired of you stealing our intellectual property. We're tired of you flooding our markets with steel. We're trying of you effing with our currency. And they have been all of this. And then Joe Biden comes along and they're like, China, we could put Joe Biden in office. Oh, we're going to do everything we can. I do not doubt. And the only way this investigation is stopped if Joe Biden is sworn in. I have no doubt that China, Russia, Iran, the Democrat Party, all work to throw this election. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. George Soros, no doubt at all. This is the greatest scandal in the history of our country. This is the biggest attempted coup. And this is, by the way, second attempted coup of the president. And this is going to have to result in a whole lot of people going to jail. Whole lot of people going to jail. And some maybe even worse. So the Supreme Court refused to hear the Texas case, and Democrats are looking at that as a victory. It involved several other states contesting the election because of voter fraud, and the Supreme Court said they didn't want to get involved in the matter for a variety of reasons. And it turns out that it may be because Judge Roberts is a corrupt pussy. Here's a little bit of testimony about what was heard, apparently, outside of the court's chambers.
Line that talks it was written by someone who's a current staffer for one of the Supreme Court justices. And this, I'll just describe the report to you that I read, and you can make of it what you will. He said that the justices, as they always do, went into a closed room to discuss, cases they're taking or to debate. There's no phones, no computers, no nothing. No one else is in the room except for the 9 justices. It's typically very civil. They usually don't hear any sound. They just debate what they're doing. But when the Texas case was brought up, he said he heard screaming through the walls as Justice Roberts and the other liberal justices were insisting that this case not be taken up.
Notice he said the other liberal justices, and it's true.
And the reason, the words that were heard through the wall when Justice Thomas and Justice Alito were citing Bush versus Gore from John Roberts were, I don't give a about that case. I don't want to hear about it. At that time, we didn't have riots.
So that's the reason why. Because if they heard the case and actually overthrew the steal, there would be riots.
So what he was saying was that he was afraid of what would happen if they did the right thing.
Unbelievable.
And I'm sorry, but that is moral cowardice.
That is dereliction of duty.
And we in the SREC, I'm an SREC member, we put those words in very specifically because the charge of the Supreme Court is to ultimately be our final arbitrator, our final line of defense for right and wrong. And they did not do their duty.
And that means they're corrupt. If anything that has really come to light in this entire ordeal is that government is rotten to the core. I'm not saying everywhere, but it can be local, it can be state, it can be federal, it can be in our courts. I want you to look at what happened with the election and what was against us as Trump supporters. Mainstream media. Absolutely savaging the president for 4 years. No good news, despite all of the great stuff that was happening. We looked past it. We said, no, you're wrong. We supported him. The big social media censoring conservatives, censoring others, censoring news stories like the Hunter Biden story, shutting people down. I mean, think about the mass reach. And if you only are associated with Facebook and you're only watching Twitter, it's like North Korea. It's like North Korea. I got my Facebook pages taken down the day after the election before I posted anything without a reason and with no recourse at all. They took me down. They took my friend Rusty Humphreys down. Same day, did the same damn thing. I had felt very helpless and frustrated when I'd been taken down from YouTube, when I'd been taken down from Facebook previously. But this time it was blatant. This time it was just because it was the day after the election. And that's when I went, wow. And that's when I said, I'm done. I'm Rumble. Rumble.com, Rob Carson Show. Rumble.com, Rob Carson Show. And I have gotten so many, every one of my posts gets thousands and thousands of views, much bigger than Facebook. And you want to hear something really funny? I was reaching about 100,000 people a week on Facebook before the election. And then the day of the election, they shut me down and it went down to 0. And now I'm back up to like 15,000 and it still says my posts are down. Wow. Here is Senator Rand Paul talking about how he feels that the election was stolen.
While we will not dictate it to the states, I think we should have hearings going into the next year, hearing from state legislatures and what they're going to do to make sure election law is upheld, not changed by people who are not legislators. And we do have an interest in that. I don't want it to be federalized. Many on the other side of the aisle would just soon federalize it and mail everybody a ballot, and we'll have this universal corruption.
No, we're going to vote in person
throughout the land. But what I think we need to do is keep it at the state level. But we can't just say it didn't happen. We can't just say, 4,000 people voted in Nevada that were non-citizens, and we're just going to ignore it. We're going to sweep it under the rug and say, the courts have decided the facts. The courts have not decided the facts. The courts never looked at the facts.
Nope.
The courts don't like elections, and so they stayed out of it by finding an excuse, standing or otherwise, to stay out of it. But the fraud happened. The election in many ways was stolen.
Oh, no. Well, you see, the reason why I would say that is because it's not over.
The only way it'll be fixed is by, in the future, reinforcing the laws. And the only last comment I would say on what...
No, we'll worry about that then, okay? We'll worry about that, but we got to fix now. We got to overturn this election, overturn these fake results, overturn this fraud. That's what we need to focus on there, Senator. I don't give a rat's ass about future elections until we fix this one.
Mr. Krebs, and he can speak for himself, but I think his job was keeping the foreigners out of the election. It was the most secure election based on
Russians, Chinese, and Iranians.
Security of the internet and technology. But he never has voiced an opinion. He's welcome to today on whether or not dead people voted. I don't think he examined that. Did he examine non-citizens voting? So to say it was
there is verified evidence in states like Wisconsin and Nevada and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin.
Safest election.
It is verified.
Sure, I agree with your statement.
They compared the voter rolls, they read the names, and now they're doing signatures in Georgia.
If you're referring to foreign intervention, but if you're saying it's the safest election based on no dead people voted, no non-citizens voted, no people broke the absentee rule.
And the Democrats still say that we had the most secure election. What they say is the opposite of what they know in their hearts.
I think that's false, and I think that's what's upset a lot of people on our side, is that they're taking your statement to mean, oh, well, there was no problem in the elections. I don't think you examined any of the problems that we've heard here.
No, you didn't. You didn't. This is Attorney James Trupus talking about the Wisconsin election. I want you to listen to this because this isn't conjecture. This isn't just making something up. This isn't some sort of rumor. This is actually looking at the voter rolls.
In Wisconsin, we just completed a recount. We had more than 2,500 volunteers, or probably more than 1,000 volunteers for the Biden campaign as well. Uniquely, we are able to examine actual envelopes that contain the ballots that are submitted by absentee voters.
And
this allowed us to identify by person, by address, by ward. It's not conspiracy. The real names are in the record. And here's what we found. We found that there were incomplete and altered certificates. These are the certificates on the front of the envelopes that have to be exactly done correctly under our
We're not stupid.
law. If not, those results may not be counted. How many of those? More than 3,000 of those identified by person were nonetheless counted, even though they are clearly invalid under the law. A second category, initials of clerks are placed on all of those envelopes. Why? Because the clerk identifies it having been properly received and identification is provided. That's the check in advance of the election. What did we find? More than 2,000 of those ballots in Dane and Milwaukee County had no initials at all, but nonetheless, they got counted.
By the way, Joe Biden won by 20,600 votes in the state of Wisconsin. Listen.
We also have special laws in Wisconsin with regard to voting in advance. We do not allow advance voting. We allow in-person and other voting as absentees. So anything...
Now, this happened in Pennsylvania, too. The Secretary of State changed the rules for voting 14 months preceding the election.
Before Election Day is under our absentee rules. What did the city of Madison do? They created a system where people could arrive at a park, hand in their ballots in envelopes 5 weeks before the election.
That's illegal.
They also created boxes. No controls at all, just boxes on corners that you could throw the ballot in.
Illegal.
No attempt at all. And our statutes explicitly say there are only 2 ways to submit an absentee ballot: in person or delivery to the clerk's office. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else is allowed.
In person or go to the clerk's office.
And yet the city of Madison, we had 20.
Well, what is Madison? Madison is, the most liberal place in America.
17,271 ballots in this category that we identify. There are tens of thousands more because they commingled the ballots afterwards, so we couldn't identify each one.
Why would they do that?
That may have been improperly cast. Then we have an interesting category called indefinitely confined. These are people which the statute, I read from the statute, by age, physical illness, or infirmity, or are disabled indefinitely.
Yes.
Among those claiming this status,
yes,
so they don't have to provide any identification. Among those claiming this status is one of the electors for Joe Biden. Who said, I can't get to the polls. We have poll workers who claimed it. We have people who went to protests, people who had weddings, people who had vacations. All claimed this status. I can't get to the polls. So they were able to vote without identification. There were 28,395 people we explicitly identified. Finally, there are other categories. In which
now, Joe Biden won by 20,000 votes.
As much as 170,000 other ballots were submitted without any application. In fact, they considered the certification envelope the application, though a separate application is required by law. 3 million people properly voted in the state of Wisconsin. More than 200,000 identified during this recount did not. But
Joe Biden won by 20,000. New election fraud whistleblowers came forward last week, including a postal subcontractor who said that 100,000 ballots in Washington were gathered the day after the election and backdated so they would be counted. Postal subcontractor Nathan Pease says that he was told by 2 separate postal workers on 2 separate occasions that the UPS in Wisconsin was gathering 100,000 ballots on the morning of November 4th to backdate the ballots so the ballots would be counted, even though they arrived after the statutory deadline, which means that they saw how much Donald Trump had won by, and so they had to get past that. So Donald Trump probably won by 180,000 votes. You know what I mean? Largest number of cluster votes in Wayne County, Michigan came from psychiatric hospital for patients with severe mental illness. See, I don't forget this stuff. I save the paper like they should when you vote. Data scientist Sarah Inglesfield wrote about this. But yeah, a homeless drop-in center. That's another place that was one of the largest cluster votes in that county. An apartment block with no numbers. Just an apartment block with no numbers. Largest cluster of votes received in Wayne County was from the Walter Reuther Psychiatric Hospital, which provides treatment, care, and services to adults with severe mental illness. 97 patients at the facility either applied for a ballot or registered at absentee voters, and 78 appeared to have returned their ballots. So they obviously not that crazy, I guess. 25,000 people in the state of Pennsylvania registered at the same time, same day at nursing facilities and hospice care facilities. Record numbers of people voting over the age of 100. People in their 90s who are generally incapacitated. Four Seasons Care Facility. Analysis found 2 instances where people had died in October, but their vote was still counted. The homeless drop-in center, as I mentioned. Analysis from election night show from all states show millions of votes either switched from President Biden Trump to Biden, or were lost using Dominion systems. Rock County, Wisconsin appeared to be switched from between President Trump to Biden. 9,516 votes were eliminated from President Trump and moved to Biden. I could go on and 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 on. We're being played. We're not stupid. And we are not going to let this election stand. Okay? I'm going to do just a couple more things here. I want to talk a little bit about the vaccine. Are you going to get the vaccine? I'm not going to. And it's not because I feel there's a microchip implanted in it. A lot of people are thinking that. Why would I want a vaccine for something that is 99.997% survivable if you don't have a comorbidity and you're under 70? So and the reason being, guys, is I have been working for 9 months in an atmosphere where people come in without shields. We're not segmented. I meet hundreds of people, thousands possibly in the last 9 months. I've been around them. They've been breathing on me. I've been breathing on them. It wasn't until about 3-4 months ago we had to wear these stupid masks. We use hand sanitizer. We don't shake hands. 2 people in my dealership have tested positive. One is a 56-year-old dude, really had no symptoms, nothing severe. And then another was like a guy in his 20s, and he didn't really have any severe symptoms or anything. It was an abundance of caution because he had a newborn baby at home that he went home and stayed. That's it. If this is the pandemic of the ages, why don't you know hundreds of people who have died? If this is the pandemic of the ages, why haven't there been giant GoFundMe movements for people who work at Walmart who've tested positive and ultimately died from COVID? Or Target, or your favorite grocery store? As I've said from the get-go, it's nonsense. It is the only reason why it exists is because it's 2020. The only reason why Russian hackers have hacked into America so deeply, we're just discovering, is because it's 2020. The only reason now we know that there is meddling from China, involvement not only in the upper echelons of government, but academia and the corporate world, is because it's 2020. What's 2020? Yeah. Here is, I saw this. This is the dumbest thing I've seen in a very long time. Right now, restaurant owners in the state of New York are being told that they cannot open indoor dining. Even though the virus has spread massively with all of the restrictions that Democrat governors have put into place. The virus has gotten suddenly worse. It became much worse since Election Day. Think about this. It was finally starting to subside a little bit. And then we had news of 3 vaccines with 95+% efficiency. And normally when it comes to vaccines being announced and then distributed the next day, the panic and fear is over. This happened with polio. This happened with smallpox. And the infection rate dropped off incredibly in just days. Since the election, and since Donald Trump is not saying that he lost, it suddenly got a lot worse. It suddenly switched panic mode into high gear. You can't go out. You can't be with your family this year. You've got to stay home. You can't. You can't have people from other houses in your house. You will face jail time. You will face fines. Guys, seriously, what the hell? There's a video that was posted on Twitter last night. This is the height of stupidity in New York City. People who want to have to dine out in New York City have to do this.
Happy holidays, Mr. Mayor, Governor. Thank you very much. I hope you're enjoying your Christmas too and your holidays.
Yeah. Oh, and another Democrat told everybody they need to stay home. You know, we've got dozens of instances of Democrat governors and mayors saying you got to stay in your house. You cannot leave. You cannot travel. The mayor of Denver said you cannot travel. The next morning or later that day, he flew to Mississippi to see his family. You've got the governor of California who is going to be recalled saying you cannot dine out. And he went to one of the most expensive restaurants in the entire country called the French Laundry, which, I mean, sounds delicious, doesn't it? The French Laundry, where he hung out with 22 people, a 5-hour meal, a $22,000 bar tab. That's $800 per person. How the hell do you drink $800 worth of booze? Anyway, they got like $2.5 million or $2.4 million in funds or emergency assistance from the COVID fund, the French Laundry. But this governor of Rhode Island, Gina Raimondo, said everybody got to stay home. You're going to die if you don't. Later that day, she's seen at a wine bar. There she is. So stay at home for COVID. Later that night, she went to a wine bar, sans mask or social distancing. COVID is a lie, and Democrats know it. And I absolutely believe that. Because, listen, I want you to pay attention to me real quick. Hopefully you have. If this were the pandemic of the ages, if the body count was so high, if it was so contagious, don't you think that leaders would feel the same fear? Don't you feel that they would stay in? Don't you feel they would be constantly masked? Don't you feel they would have a fear in their hearts of death that would be so profound as they preach to you to stay home and to give up all of your freedoms? Don't you think they would do the same thing because they don't want to die? Either these leaders have a death wish or they don't believe the bullshit they're telling you. I absolutely 100% with all of my heart say they don't believe the bullshit they're telling you. They just don't. It's a lie. Here is a, here is a nurse getting, just got the vaccine in, I believe this is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So she just got the vaccine.
I did, yes. So, all of my staff, we are excited to get the vaccine. We are in the COVID unit, so...
Now, she just got the vaccine, and she's starting to get a little bit kind of loopy here. I want you to pay attention. She gets a little loopy.
For, my team will be getting first chances to get the vaccine. And I know that...
she's going to start acting like a Joe Biden campaign event. She's going to start wandering, not able to keep her thoughts together.
It's really... I'm sorry, I'm feeling really dizzy.
I'm feeling really dizzy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Feeling a little dizzy here. Huh. And 1, 2, 3, she's out. She's out. Okay. Could have been a lot of things. Could have been nerves. Not used to doing public appearances. Not used to being in front of the camera. I don't know. I want to play a little bit of Tucker Carlson. Tucker has been doing some incredible monologues. He did a great job with Joe Biden the other night. Leary is talking a little bit about this vaccine, and I'm going to post this. I posted it on my Facebook and my Parler page, Parler, and the Rob Carson Show. But I want you to watch this. And the exuberance, the irrational exuberance with regard to this vaccine.
It was all a fantastic experience, according to the doctor who treated her. Quote, during the whole time, she was still enthusiastic that she got the vaccine and the benefits.
This is somebody who received the vaccine in Alaska.
Benefits it would give her in the future. What a cheerful patient she must be. We've got to assume she is in any case because we can't really know. The authorities didn't release her name. All we know is she's a highly satisfied customer. Yet another. Have a vaccine and a smile. Just do it. So how are the rest of us supposed to respond to a marketing campaign like this?
By the way, that person had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine. She's not allergic to anything else.
Well, nervously. even if you're strongly supportive of vaccines, and we are, even if you recognize how many millions of lives have been saved over the past 50 years by vaccines, and we do.
Yes, we do.
It all seems a bit much. It feels false because it is. It's too slick. The Gandalf guy was euphoric because he got a shot.
Yeah, the guy who played Gandalf, he got his. He said it was euphoric.
It wasn't heroin. It was the corona vaccine. The lady who couldn't breathe is enthusiastic as she is rushed to the emergency room.
That's the woman with the allergic reaction.
Come on. This is patronizing. Stop with the slogans. Better to treat Americans like adults. Explain the benefits, be honest about the risks, and let the rest of us decide. In this country, we control our own bodies. They're always telling us that.
Yeah.
But no, suddenly the rules have changed. On the question of the corona vaccine, our leaders are definitely not pro-choice. Their view is do what you're told and don't complain. No uncomfortable questions.
Yep.
Those aren't just suggestions, they're rules, and Silicon Valley plans to enforce them. Twitter's announced a new policy to censor any unauthorized inquiry about the vaccine.
You heard it right here. They did the same thing with Hunter Biden.
Or as the company put it, false or misleading narratives about COVID-19 vaccinations.
Wow.
Among other things, Twitter is censoring any claim that this vaccine might be used to, quote, control populations. So whatever you do, don't say this is social control. Because if you do, the richest and most powerful people in the world will act in perfect coordination to shut you down immediately.
100%.
So to repeat, there is no social control going on here. None.
No. But we want you to stay in your house. You can't go to work. You can't go to concerts. You can't go to restaurants. Your kid can't go to school. You can't attend a funeral. You can't go. You can't go anywhere. You can't open your restaurant. You can't open your business. You can't go see a movie. You certainly, as I mentioned, cannot go to church. And you can't have people who don't live in your house. In your house, you can't have Christmas. You can't have Thanksgiving. You can't have anything.
And if you suggest otherwise, Twitter's social controls will censor you, and not just Twitter's.
I'd say that's social control.
Facebook has now decided it must, quote, build demand for vaccination in communities worldwide by sharing, quote, reassuring information about getting the vaccine.
Are you listening to that? Are you listening to that? Are you listening to how Orwellian it is? And it's even worse. I think George Orwell would be. What I had in my mind is nothing like they've actually been able to do, because when he wrote 1984 in the 40s, didn't have the internet, didn't have big media like we do now, didn't have the social media. I think he would have marveled. I think he would have went, wow, this is worse than I could have ever imagined. And I think it is. I'm going to play a little bit of a piece that's inspirational, really cool. It's a little long, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. It is about the president. It's got a song by Mike and the Mechanics, Silent Running. It's done by a guy named Justin Bellucci. It's called The Army Rising, and I'm going to play a little bit of this before I go, okay? So enjoy this, guys. And I have posted this on my Facebook, on my Parler pages as well, and on my Mega Book page. That way you can see it and be inspired by it.
Remember this: nothing worth doing ever came easy. Following your convictions means you must be willing to face criticism from those who lack the same courage to do what is right, and they know what is right, but they don't have the courage or the guts or the stamina to take it and to do it. It's called the road less traveled.
Love this.
What imprint will you leave in the sands of history? What will future Americans say we did in our brief time right here on Earth?
Take the children and yourself and hide out in the cellar. By now the fighting will be close at hand.
Hide in your home.
Don't believe the
is 100% committed to eradicating human trafficking from the earth, this form of modern-day slavery here in the United States and all around the world. We are dismantling the criminal organizations that make large-scale human trafficking possible. We will not rest until we've stopped every last human trafficker and liberated every last survivor.
Just inside the doorway.
The McCluskeys in St. Louis.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
Yes.
There is nothing the political establishment will not do, no lie that they won't tell, to hold their prestige and power at your expense. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself.
100%.
For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. Whether we are black or brown or white, we all bleed the same red blood of patriots. When America is united, America is totally unstoppable. There should be no fear. We are protected, and we will be protected by God. Did we challenge accepted wisdom and take on established systems? I think I did, but we all did, and we're all doing it. Or did we just go along with convention, swim downstream so easily with the current, and just give in because it was the easy way, it was the traditional way, or it was the accepted way? I know that each of you will be a warrior for the truth, will be a warrior for our country and for your family. And as long as America remains true to its values, loyal to its citizens, and devoted to its creator, then our best days are yet to come. I can promise you that.
Wow. Woohoo! Excuse me. That was intense. Justin Bellucci. Brilliant. 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 Hey, if you guys would do me a favor, I've got this terrific line of shirts and mugs and hoodies and all this. You can put all these designs on it. America Supremacist, Cancel Fox News, Party It's Like It's 1776, Super Spreader. Okay, all of those. And there's more. There's one that's called Veganism is an Eating Disorder, and there's a bunch of designs. would you order? I'm splitting the proceeds with my designer, Sam Cangelosi, and I think they're brilliant. I think they're brilliant designs, and they make a point, sometimes with humor, sometimes very serious. But if you do that, that would be great. Also, I want to remind you again, if you would please subscribe and share my Rumble channel. Please. Oh, there's my this is cool. That's my first winner of the Wagyu beef, freezer full of beef from Castle Cattle Company, and then also a pit barrel cooker. Okay, and that is my first winner. All right, that's Noah. No, that's not Noah. I forgot his name already. Sorry. Anyway, this was our last winner. This is Felix. Felix, he won a freezer full of beef, Wagyu beef from Hassel Cattle Company. Check out HassleCattleCompany.com and go shopping, because the steak is just ridiculous, and the beef jerky and the sausage and the hamburger. Oh my God in heaven, and the stew meat. I used the stew meat in chili. It was the best damn chili I've ever had in my life. Unbelievable. All right, then also a pit barrel cooker. You will have it the rest of your life. It is awesome. Awesome. Nick says he's seen that video on YouTube. Yeah. And I'm still on YouTube. I'm just not going to depend on YouTube. The growth is on Rumble. Rumble.com, and the growth is also on Parler, Parler.com. Time for me to go, guys. I've got to go work. I'm going to sell some cars and then hopefully be able to do this full-time with my TV show on Newsmax. This weekend show on Newsmax is effing hilarious. It is a half-hour show called Rob Carson's What in the World. It airs on Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on Sunday, I believe they're running it at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But they also run it Monday morning. It's just blowing up. Okay, so just go to newsmax.com for local listings. Get the Newsmax app. 3 million of you, more than 3 million in December or in November, got the Newsmax app. Unbelievable. I am so proud to be a part of it. Can you believe, if you know me, can you believe I'm on Newsmax? Holy hell. This is crazy. Meaning you can reinvent yourself at any age. You can do it. You can reinvent, and if you use humor to make a point, that helps. You can do anything. Do anything, but just don't give up. Okay? Just don't give up. I'm fighting, baby. I am in the fight. I am not effing ever going to say that Joe Biden is my president. I have faith that this whole thing is going to blow up and that Donald Trump will continue to be the president, because you know what? Evil doesn't win. If it did, Hitler's great nephew would be the chancellor of Germany right now, and the Soviet Union would still exist, and the Khmer Rouge would still be around. Eventually, good wins. Evil is easy. You can be evil. You can go steal something, and it's easy. Being really good and righteous. And I'm not saying I'm all that, I made my mistakes, trust me. But evil and lying and cheating will not win. Eventually, it will collapse like a house of cards, like a TV show. Yeah, house of cards. Time for me to go. Parler.com and Rumble.com. Have a glorious day. Everybody, Lisa and everybody was watching. I can't even see this. The list is so long. And Shelby and Nick and everybody. Thank you for watching. Will you share this? Will you share this on social media? Will you share my channels on social media? And help me out. That'd be great, because I think great things are happening in this show and reaching people, and also great things are happening in the country. And I cannot not be optimistic. I cannot surrender. I cannot be a sheep. I cannot go quietly into the night. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not. God bless you guys. Merry Christmas. I'll be back before Christmas. Don't worry. Talk to you soon. That was a good show.